Okay. Good evening, folks. We're going to get started. All right, a couple of items of housekeeping. First and foremost, if you look there and there, you will see the cameras that are live streaming this meeting. So just so you are aware, the meeting is being recorded. Please take this opportunity to silence your cell phones, turn them off, or put them on to vibrate. And of course, for all public comments, unless otherwise discussed, your time limit is 3 minutes in length. Please come to the podium, that one right there, and begin with your name and the block of your residence. You do not need to announce your specific address, but I do need the 100 block. For example, the 500 block of South Duke Street. Also, just a moment. All right, I hereby call this August 9th meeting of the Council of the City of Lancaster to order. First, I want to start with an announcement. Want to let you all know that an executive session was held by City Council on Monday, August 1st, 2022, to discuss with the city's attorney ongoing litigation related to 317 North Queen Street. Just so you're aware, and I'm required to do so by law to make that announcement. Now that we're through with that, if you would please join me as you are willing or able in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Harris, would you please call the roll of members?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Ms. Baquet.
Here.
Mr. Calise.
Here.
Ms. Craig. Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Here. Councilor Craig is excused this evening. We go then to approval of the minutes for July 12th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Council comments on the minutes. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Baquet.
Aye.
Mr. Calise.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. That brings us to proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition. Do we have any tonight, Mr. Harris?
Yes, we do, Mr. President. First is Council Resolution number 68.
I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Diaz.
Mr. President, can I read the title?
I'm so sorry. Please, Mr. Harris. I'm going to let Mr. Harris read the title. That's my error. Go ahead.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster recognizing the International Day of Peace, September 21st, and urging the United States Congress to reduce its funding to the United States Department of Defense and reallocate those funds to domestic needs with the goal of a more peaceful world and an enhanced quality of life for the citizens of the United States.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Diaz.
Yes. Mr. Wolf had requested to have this Lancaster to recognize the International Day of Peace for September 21st, 2022. And we do have several members of our community that would like to speak. If Mr. Wolf can please come up first.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you again for considering this resolution. It's very important, and it comes on an interesting, unique day, a very appropriate day. Today is August 9th, the 77th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Nagasaki, where 80,000 persons were incinerated. And that is 3 days after the anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, when 120,000 people were incinerated. And so if we think that nuclear war cannot happen, we only need to remind ourselves that it already has. And today we stand at a point closer than we have ever been to an all-out nuclear exchange. So passing this today shows the work that we have to do, and it shows the work that you can do, because you talk to your constituents every day about these issues. And you do so in a way that other elected officials don't. So we're really looking to you for leadership on this issue, and we appreciate you doing work on this issue. I do want to recognize a couple people that are here today who are not going to speak. Sister Danny Brought is here from the Adorers of the Blood of Christ, a Catholic religious order. We also have, of course, Reverend Peachy here from Community Mennonite. One partnership I want to mention that we've just entered into with Zotropolis Cinema. It's called a new film series, Projections of Peace. And I want to invite all of you to our first film, which is September 25th. It's a Sunday at 12:30. And the documentary that we are showing is called National Bird. And it talks about the true cost of drone warfare on civilians and on soldiers. So please attend. Any of you can come up on stage that day and say a few comments about the International Day of Peace. You can talk about Lancaster being a nonviolent city, if you would like. So put that in your calendars. Thank you so much. And I will introduce Dr. A.J. Marwa, who would like to speak next.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, can we have names and?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Mr. Wolf, can you approach the podium again? You're good. AJ, you can stay up here even. Can you just give us your first and last and the 100 block of your residence?
Yes, Brad Wolf, 300 block of North Christian Street.
You're good. And then you, doctor, if you would begin with that information.
Dr. A.J. Marwaha. I actually work at Lancaster General and at the Heart Group. I just want to thank all of you for taking up this resolution, and especially Councilwoman Diaz for bringing this up. The International Day of Peace, September 21st every year, is really a vision of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. That is being celebrated. And that is of the beloved community, a nonviolent and a love-based community that that is striving for justice. And we all want to see that, so it would be wonderful for us to celebrate the Day of Peace in educating the public regarding this. I would recommend considering having a festival regarding this and inviting the community and businesses. It would create activity in the city with no cost to the city and actually bring revenue. I would say, there's conflict always in life. There's conflict in marriage, and there's conflict in every relationship. And peace is really about how we resolve conflict and how we reconcile it in a nonviolent manner. So let's celebrate peace and nonviolence, and let's celebrate envisioning peace as the beloved community. Let's celebrate by educating our kids the dignity of all human beings. Let's celebrate by learning strategies for nonviolent conflict resolution in all situations. Let's celebrate by having this festival, if we can, in the city, with music, arts, with education, book clubs, film series as we're starting, and booths, inviting businesses, and so that our citizens in the city can have the safest and most uplifting city that can be a beacon for the country and the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Good evening. My name is Harold Pinner. I'm from Akron, Pennsylvania, 108 South 5th Street. I'm a member of the Peace Action Network of Lancaster that meets regularly. I'm also participate in an organization called 1040 for Peace. This is an organization that has existed for about a dozen years so far, and it exists for individuals to express conscience and their conscience, and also to express their citizenship based on the kind of taxes that are paid and the taxes that aren't paid. And so we ask people to consider the possibility of withholding $10.40 from their taxes and then writing their legislators and telling them that they're doing this symbolically to make a witness for peace. I want to thank the City Council for entertaining this resolution tonight. It's very meaningful for me, and I think it's very important for the City of Lancaster. And here's why. It seems to me that Lancaster City residents don't seem to be aware of how much we are impoverished by misdirecting national budget priorities. According to the National Priorities Project, the U.S. military budget in 2021 was $740 billion. Of that, taxpayers in Lancaster County paid $952 million. Since most threats to U.S. national security are not military in nature, instead of underwriting a bloated, unaudited Pentagon budget each year, in Lancaster County alone, our federal taxes could, for example, underwrite 5,521 clean energy jobs, build over 95,000 public housing units, support 9,796 elementary school teachers, deploy 7,000 registered nurses, and provide veterans benefits, medical care for 73,659 military veterans, and that list goes on. We could do all those kinds of things if we would redirect our military budget. Now, according to the War Resisters League, 48% of our 2022 federal tax money underwrites both present and past military expenditures. That portion is $1.704 billion. The 500,000 population of Lancaster County pays $2.58 billion of that amount. So each man, woman, and child in Lancaster County pays $5,150 for war making each year. And if we don't do that, then the unpaid amount will accumulate in our national debt to be paid by our unborn children and grandchildren. Now, if Lancaster County's 2022 portion of war-making expenditures was put in $1,000 bills and stacked against the Grice Building on Penn Square, how high would the stack be? $1 million in $1,000 bills is 4.3 inches, about like that. Okay? 2.58 billion divided by 1 million is 2,580. So you multiply the 4.3 inches by 2,580 and you get 924 and a half feet. The Grice Building is 192 feet high. So our stack of $1,000 bills that supports the U.S. military every year is over 4.8 times the height of the Grice Building. Each and every year this happens. I encourage you to spread the word and support this resolution. War is not the answer. I ask the Lancaster City Council to support war tax redirection by affirming this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm John Stoner from the greater Lancaster area, 728 Fulton Street, Akron.
Thank you.
I'm a friend of Lancaster City. And I draw your attention to the final whereas, which I'll read. Promoting non-military solutions to global problems could reasonably be expected to reduce individual reliance on guns and violence in Lancaster City in addressing personal disputes and acts of desperation. So, any parents here? deal with children. Imagine parents trying to teach a child to carry their empty dishes from the table to the sink after the meal. And the child says, "But Mom, you don't carry your dishes over." And she says, "Don't do as I do, do as I say." How convincing is that parent? That's not a philosophy of raising children that's going to work. And what we model globally in terms of power and violence somehow filters down and gets to the minds of other people. And they think of how to deal with their problems, and their solutions aren't often very creative. So this would be good modeling on the part of Lancaster City to just make a little shift here in terms of the big picture and how we work at solving our problems. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to, but I decided I will. My name is Richard Stam, and I'm just outside the city as well, 150 Sage Drive. And my wife and I are in the city almost constantly and expect someday to move here into the city. But I just wanted to add a comment for you as you're considering this resolution. I urge you to read all of the whereases. I think it really speaks for itself and captures many of my concerns for our community and our country. So I just want to add this personal comment. My wife Susan and I have been impressed over the years with the leadership of the city and the many ways this body has improved the lives of its citizens. We read the paper every day and we're impressed. Community policing, focus on neighborhoods, supporting arts, culture, to name just a few. My guess is that each one of you have additional goals for the community. Many of these are requiring funding. It's interesting that we're here today as Congress is working on the Inflation Reduction Act, which I believe will invest about $740 billion over 10 years. As this resolution points out, our military budget this year alone is $778 billion, or almost $8 trillion over those same 10 years. So the International Day of Peace is a perfect opportunity to bring this to the attention of those who represent us in Congress. And the next time they discuss tax and spend or cutting the budget, ask them why this never includes the ever-growing military budget. I urge you to not only adopt the resolution, but promote it to your colleagues in cities everywhere so we can begin to act on the dreams we all have to make our communities better places to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's all, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Any other comments from the public?
Hi, my name is Isabel Guerrero Melendez. I live on the 400 block of Fremont Street, and I am also a member of the Catholic Worker here in the city. I am not only a new resident to the city, but also a new resident to Pennsylvania. And I work as a social worker at LGH, and what attracted me to this city is that this is a very community-based city. This is a people place. This is a place where you often know your neighbor, where you know a lot of your neighbors, you're very involved in your community, where you walk down the street and say hello to someone. And it is an unfortunate aspect of my field that I often hear about people's obstacles, about their difficulties, about barriers they face. But it is also a fortunate aspect because in knowing those issues, we can also address those issues. And there are many wonderful nonprofit organizations here in the city. There are also many wonderful benefits that exist not only in our hospital system, but our healthcare system in general. And I am just so appreciative that all of you are open and hold this space and this time for all community members to speak their mind. And I would just ask that this resolution as well can be seen as something that can positively contribute to the lives of the people here in Lancaster and better it. And more specifically, I work with pregnant persons here in the city who are tasked with the responsibility of raising their children in this city and, really building their lives up to better our future. And I think that this is a great step towards that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just because we didn't ask, are there any council comments? Okay. In that case, hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo. Aye. Ms. Beke?
Aye.
Mr. Calise?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you very much, all. Mr. Harris, if you would be so kind as to produce 2 copies, one for Councilor Diaz to share with the lovely folks in the back, and one to be sent to Congressman Smucker, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you. Excellent. And thank you, Councilor Diaz, for bringing this to council. All right, we go then to Council Resolution number 70, 2020. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. A resolution of the City Council authorizing the City of Lancaster to join other municipal entities in an amici curiae in support of respondents Aubrey Elanius et al. In the matter of 303 Creative LLC et al. Versus Aubrey Elanius et al., currently pending before the Supreme Court of the United States of America, docketed to case numbers 21-476.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mayor, would you?
Thank you. As a member of Mayors Against LGBTQ Discrimination, I was approached, as many other mayors across the country, to join an amicus brief that concerns a court case involving Colorado's longstanding non-discrimination law prohibiting discrimination in places of public accommodation based on sexual orientation and gender identity. So this brief lays out a case to explain why local governments have a critically important interest in the enforcement of non-discrimination laws, and as the City of Lancaster, as a friend in this case, which will be advanced to the Supreme Court. And so right now, the District Court and the 10th Circuit Court ruled in favor of Colorado. The appeal is to the U.S. Supreme Court, which will address whether applying a public accommodations law to compel, in this case, an artist to speak or stay silent violates the free speech clause.
Council comments? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke?
Aye.
Mr. Calise?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye, thank you. That brings us to our first public comment period for the evening, reserved for those persons who have contacted the city clerk prior to the meeting to request the opportunity to address city council. Do we have any tonight, Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. President. Versus Scott Seuss.
Mr. Seuss?
Yes, Scott Seuss, 300 block of North Queen Street. All the major complaints cited in the city's July 7th civil actions against the Legacy Lounge have existed since the business first opened. So why did it take 9.5 months to take civil action to enforce the city's own zoning codes and ordinances? It appears to us that the city was more about enabling than it was about enforcement. Time and time again, we were told that investigations were being conducted, yet when the civil action was finally filed, there is no mention of illegal alcohol consumption taking place, supposedly due to a lack of evidence. Given the abundance of video and other evidence gathered by block members, this is totally stupefying. The action filed by the city was done so, knowing it would not achieve results in any sort of timely manner, and that a request for an immediate injunction would not succeed in court as a result of their failure of adequately investigating and gathering evidence. What then was the motivation behind filing in the first place? Hollow appeasement? A Hail Mary pass? City ordinances that exist to provide for the health and welfare of the community mean absolutely nothing when deliberately not enforced.
A business allowed to operate 13 months in violation of this ordinance with a total disregard for its neighboring businesses and residents is not equitable and fair to those of us that have invested our hearts, souls, time, energy, and money into our neighborhoods and businesses, all while following the rules. After 2 people were shot in the doorway of the club, a petition was delivered to the mayor's office requesting an immediate injunction. Despite repeated requests, we've yet to receive any sort of response from the city hall regarding that petition. A petition signed by roughly 90% of the business owners on that block. A petition signed by a large number of the residents of the area. A petition delivered with 74 signatures representing a broad spectrum of vested stakeholders in our community that deserve better and at least deserve a response. Got nothing. We now have even more signatories since it was delivered. Having spoken to a city attorney, I'm left with the impression that there is no interest by council or the city to pursue any further action that might result in stopping the club before their lease expiration date of October 31st. He tells me that may change if a serious offense occurs. What is more serious than 2 people being shot in the doorway? Is it only considered serious if someone dies? Given all the shooting activity in the city, perhaps that is now the standard. I don't know. Legacy now operates almost exclusively as an after-hours speakeasy with no signage on the door, opening at 2 a.m. and trolling patrons at legitimate establishments that close at 2 a.m. Evidently, it's a successful business model that can be taken anywhere in the city, given that the zoning violations, alcohol violations, noise control, etc., are not regulated. The tenant is now looking for new space. Others may soon emulate his things, and your neighborhoods could all be next. So I'd like to ask council members, would any of you be satisfied with how this problematic establishment has been handled if it was in your immediate neighborhood? Because it's terrible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sust. Mayor, do you have anything here? Okay, thank you. Mr. Harris, do I have any other public comments?
We do not, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. We'll go then to reports requested by council. I believe we have a presentation this evening, Mr. Harris.
We have a presentation from the Lancaster Reinventing Our Communities cohort.
Hi. My name is Alma Felix. I'm supposed to say 500 Greenfield Road, right outside the city. So again, my name is Alma Felix. I am a program officer at the Lancaster County Community Foundation, and I am here today representing the Lancaster County Reinventing Our Communities cohort, which is a cross-sector collaboration of local businesses and organizations that are on the screen right now. Next slide.
Can you lower
Can you hear me? Yeah, I was gonna say. Is this better? Hello? Okay. So the Reinventing Our Communities program is a initiative through the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. And in the summer of 2021, they invited Lancaster County to be a part of this program, along with 8 other communities across the country. And with the ultimate goal to develop a post-pandemic equitable small business recovery plan for our respective communities. Next slide. As part of this cohort, we were represented by 12 local leaders, each from their respective organizations and businesses that are also up on the screen right now. Next slide. As part of this program, the cohort participated in a learning journey, which included racial equity training and small business support training. Ultimately, we develop a plan that enhances and fills in gaps that exist in current resources and initiatives in our community. Next slide. We also recognize as a cohort that we do not represent our full community. So in the fall of 2021 and spring of 2022, we hosted a series of conversations that prompted input from nearly 4 dozen small businesses. We also continuously engage with other leaders in our community, such as the Entrepreneurship Coalition. Next slide. Ultimately, with the help of our community, we develop a strategic plan with a vision that Lancaster County is a nurturing environment for BIPOC small business owners to thrive. And we have 3 strategic priorities. The first is to strengthen trust among resource providers and BIPOC-owned small businesses. The second is to build equitable access to capital. And the third is to strengthen community for BIPOC-owned small businesses. Next slide. Each strategic priority also has two main goals that we hope to accomplish. One of them being to hire a community liaison, and another to establish a BIPOC Small Business Investment Fund. Each of these goals also has actionable steps to help us achieve them in the next 3 to 5 years. Our strategic plan centers BIPOC-owned small businesses, and we believe that by doing this, we are ultimately benefiting all current and emerging businesses in Lancaster County. Next slide. Currently, we are looking for partnerships and to work with the community to establish and set foundations for our goals. You can read the full strategic plan and learn more. Also follow our progress at lankfound.org/ROC Lancaster. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Members of council, any questions for Ms. Felix?
Council President, if I may?
Please.
Thank you. No questions, but just a comment. I had the privilege of representing council as part of this cohort in this group over the past year now. And thanks to the leadership of Alma and our fellow BIPOC entrepreneurs that served on this cohort, we were able to come up with a strategic plan that I'm personally very excited about, but also other members of our community to implement this in a collaborative way. So very excited, and I look forward to council support as we look to implement these steps moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there? Oh. Comments from the public?
Don't leave, I'm gonna ask you. Okay, maybe I'm blind, but I didn't see the community fund up there. Are they involved with you? The reason I asked you is, I sat on that before, it was big like it is now, and they have a credit union. I think Dan is still in charge.
The Entrepreneurship Coalition?
Yeah,
She's
is
referring
he
to-
part-
Oh,
Is he
Community First
part?
Fund?
Yeah.
Is he part of it? I didn't see it up there. No,
Yes,
'cause
so Community First Fund is part of the Entrepreneurship Coalition, which is a group that we.
that's all I need. I didn't see it.
Thank you, Mr. Acosta-Velez. Any other public comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay then, I believe we move then to reports of committees of council held on August 1st, 2022. We'll begin with the Public Safety Committee. Councilor Diaz. Thanks for coming, y'all.
Yes, Mr. President, we did meet last week, and we were discussing Administration Resolution 65-2022, authorizing an application for the Buyer Justice Grant funding. And of course, we've already voted on Resolution 60-2022, recognizing International Peace Day. And we will bring up the Resolution 65-2022 at the administration portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Public Works, Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Council President. Public Works did meet last Tuesday, and we had 5 items on the agenda, which will all appear later in the legislative agenda. The first being Administration Resolution 64-2022, which is a request extension of the Christian Street Bicycle Boulevard Grant. Administration Resolution 66-22, authorizing a grant application for Vision Zero Plan implementation. Administration Resolution 67-2022, authorizing a grant application for the eastbound connector pathway. Administration Bill 15-2022, establishing rules for flying flags at city facilities. And Administration Bill 17-2022, amending the Stormwater Management Ordinance. And that concludes the report.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Economic Development, Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. The Economic Development Committee did meet on August 1st. I gave a brief update on the City Affordable Housing Solutions request for proposal. Just a friendly reminder that the bids are still being accepted on penbid.net through 11 a.m. on August 22nd. That concludes my report, Council President.
Thank you. Finance, Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee did not meet.
Thank you. Community Planning, Councilor Arroyo, would you report for Councilor Craig?
Sure will. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you.
The Community Planning Committee did meet on August 1st. We discussed Administration Resolution Number 63, 2022, authorizing a cooperation agreement with the Lancaster Public Library for grant funding, Administration Bill Number 16, 2022, amending the Central Market Ordinance, and Administration Resolution Number 69, 2022, amending the Sewer Control Plan to include Photonis Defense Borough Business Park. All three of these, all two resolutions and the administration bill will appear on the agenda later this evening. That concludes my report, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. And finally, the Personnel Committee, Councilor Calixte.
Council President, the Personnel Committee did not meet last Tuesday.
Okay, thank you. That moves us into our legislative agenda. We begin with ordinances for final passage, starting with Administration Bill Number 13, 2022. Mr. Harris?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, amending Chapter 295, Water, Article 3, Service Connections, Article 4, Service Applications and Special Contracts, Article 5, Meters, Article 6, Billing and Administration, Article 7, Water Rates, and Article 9, General Water Regulations, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect in accordance with Pennsylvania law.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Motion to approve.
Again?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Walsh?
Sure. So this, we have had multiple discussions around these changes, and there are, I would say, a considerable amount of administrative changes to it, but I do want to invite Director Campbell to review them one more time, just in case there are any lingering questions to go over.
Thank you very much, Council Member, and thank you very much, Council. As stated, it is in large part a number of administrative changes to align the practices with the actual ordinances and to be able to facilitate the technology that has been implemented for electronic meters and their measurements so that we can do monthly billing, as well as the alignment of the water rates so that the water is measured by the volume, not by the width of the spigot or the conduit for seam. In very, very simple, quick rotation, the need for the summary of the chapter is that there's one customer per service pipe. Strange, though it might have been to not be otherwise. That was the case. That was not the case. Requiring consistency of information for applicants. The information on the applications to be done in a particular way so that there is consistency and the ability to have better data management. It clarifies the responsibility of the customer for maintenance and keeping the meters in good repair. It standardizes the size and location of the meters where they're installed on the property, clarifies when, where, and how there are deposits required, and deletes issues related to multiple units when they did not conform with the regulations and practice of 1 meter per building block. It allowed for temporary service from a fire hydrant, especially in cases of emergency or the need for fire use. It talked about non-potable bulk water loading stations, and as I said, it aligned the water rates to be consistently measured by volume and not by the width of the pipe that serves the property.
Thank you, Director Campbell.
Okay, we'll start with questions from members of council. Questions from the public? Mr. Acosta-Velez.
My name is Ivan Acosta-Velez. I'm 800 block of Highland Avenue. If we're doing this, are we also going to look for the pipe, the pipes outside that you guys take care of? because they're old. They're there before I was born, and you could tell in the water. I'm always buying water. So I'm paying you and buying water. Okay, so can you let me know if there, in this thing, are we also somehow, I don't mean we're going to do it the whole city, but are we targeting that? Because I wish we would.
Thank you very much for the question. As a matter of fact, there was earlier legislation, two or three meetings ago, that talked about the lead service, the water pipe access to the properties, the fact that we were looking for funding to do replacement of pipes and accelerate the replacement of lead pipes. We do in fact know where most of the pipes are. We have a portfolio of approximately 48,000 service lines, 3,200 of which are in a matter of question, and 600 or 650 of which we know are lead pipes. The lead pipes, the funding that we went after in that legislation from before, accelerates our ability to replace the lead pipes, so that rather than those be replaced over the course of 4 or 5 years, we hope that all of those 650 pipes can be replaced within the course of 1, maybe 2 years at most. The balance of the funding that was requested in that legislation will be to identify any of the others under the 3,200 balance that are not clearly determined at this moment to be lead or not. This will be consistent with the water requirements of DEP and the ability to address, I'm hoping, the concerns that you've raised, that we, the city, know the condition and the status and the materials by which each of the service lines is made. I believe, if I remember correctly, that the request was for, I want to say $4.6 million for the lead replacement lines. We actually bumped it up to $6 million because we knew that we could replace the 650, and any balance, since there's vagary in the amount of excavation that's required to identify or to solve a problem when you're replacing the lead line is unclear, so we bumped the request number up to $6 million. Anything that we do not use over and above solving for the 650 will contribute to identifying the balance from the 3,200.
Tim Stuhlter, 1 United Lancaster. When will the water rate hikes take effect? Was it for third quarter, fourth quarter?
And actually, just while you're doing that, if you would just state for the record, I believe we discussed what the average residential consumer might see as an increase. So if you wouldn't mind just tacking that onto the end. Thank you.
So I do apologize. Many of these things are the detail that Patrick Hopkins takes care of,
Yes.
and I know that there's vagaries by unit type, unit size, et cetera, et cetera. So I apologize that I'm not able to answer that question about what the average rate is. Would you like to share, Mr. Stuhlter?
There we go.
According to Patrick's previous discussion, as reported in 1 United Lancaster, the typical residential customer in the city would see their rates rise from $84.15 to $95.70.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And I apologize, the question that you had asked,
When does the rate
is it shortly after the approval of the resolution?
I believe it's October, but I will confirm with you, Tim. In city,
In city.
to match the outside customer rate increase that was approved by the PUC.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council or the public? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh,
Aye.
and President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you, and thank you, Director Campbell. That brings us to Administration Bill number 14, 2022. Mr. Harris?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, establishing appropriations of $6,509,314 for capital projects in 2022, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect as provided by Pennsylvania law.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Councilor Beke?
Thank you very much, Council President. You may recall we discussed these appropriations on the last month's committee and council meeting. They're for projects in the General Stormwater and Water Fund. And you also may recall that we had previously approved reimbursements for these projects as part of a future bond issue. This evening, I hereby move to amend Bill 14, 2022 by modifying Exhibit A to include under the general fund a public restroom facility for $50,000 and to modify all figures in the exhibit to account for this addition, which results in an increase the funding amounts referenced in Bill 14, 2022, and therefore to change everywhere in the ordinance the sum of $6,509,314 to $6,559,314, and the sum under Section 2.1A for Parks and Facilities projection of $205,000 to $255,000.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second for the amendment. Council comments on the amendment.
Just briefly, Council President, to add more context to this amendment, this was $50,000 extra in addition to the projects listed on Exhibit A that would allow for fabrication costs related to this public restroom facility.
Thank you. Comments from council? From the public?
Are you allowed to vote after you amend it with that amount? My understanding, you have to leave it for next council meeting. That is correct? We don't have the solicitor here, we should, but I don't think you can, if you're amending it like that, you have to leave it for next. You can't vote.
That's not the case.
Did you have the solicitor that told you that's not the case?
Yes, he did.
Yes. So,
Where's his documentation?
Well,
Should be to the public. And he's not even here to discuss it.
Mr. Handwerger is, from time to time, we let him out of his dungeon and give him the night off. But I appreciate the concern. We are required to advertise items which are not de minimis, but it has been his judgment, and the emails and discussion are a matter of record, and I'm sure when he is back from his time off, he would be happy to describe it to you or any member of the assembled press, his opinion that we are allowed to take this action and then proceed tonight. He is usually our first stop, because when we don't check in with him, we get in trouble. But I appreciate the concern.
Okay.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? On the amendment, that is. Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Harris on the amendment.
On the motion to amend, Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Okay, we now have an amended motion on administration. We have a motion for the amended administration bill number 14, 2022. Councilor Beke.
Thank you. I don't have anything additional besides what I explained previously, but I'll just repeat that this new amount is accounted for in our previous resolution in which we could reimburse these funds with a future bond issue.
Thank you. Other council comments? From the public? Okay. Hearing none on the amended bill, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke?
Aye.
Mr. Calise?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. We go now to ordinances for first reading. Administration Bill Number 15, 2022. Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, declaring that the flying of flags on city flagpoles is government speech, establishing guidelines regarding the flying of flags on city flagpoles, authorizing the implementation of policies and procedures regarding the same, providing for the severability of the ordinance, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect in accordance with Pennsylvania law. The first reading, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councilor Walsh.
So this was brought to our attention during the last committee meeting by the city solicitor in relation to a situation that happened in another state, but it had brought to his attention that currently the city has no protocols nor ordinances as it relates to the flagpoles that sit on city property. So what this particular ordinance would do would be to set those ordinances and protocols as defined within the definitions of it for defining what ceremonial flags are, commemorative flags are, and organizational flags. And ultimately, what this would grant City Council the power to do would be able to approve what flags can and cannot be flown on city property.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh.
Thank you.
Are there other council comments? Other comments from the public? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, we don't need one.
We don't need one.
First reading.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Great. Hearing none, we'll move on to Administration Bill Number 16, 2022, amending. Mr. Harris, that's your job.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, amending Chapter 32 of the Code of the City of Lancaster, Central Market Trust, 32-4, Central Market Trust Board of Directors, to allow for more than 9 directors, amending Chapter 228 of the Code of the City of Lancaster, Public Markets, 228-1, Days and Times of Operation, and 228-2, Central Market House Regulations, Subpart G, to allow days and hours of operation to be determined by the Central Market Trust, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance will take effect in accordance with Pennsylvania law.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harris. We don't have Councilor Craig this evening. Councilor Arroyo, can you speak to this briefly?
Yep. Thank you, Council President. Administration Bill Number 1622 allows the implementation of the Trust Strategic Plan initiatives, as mentioned in the title, specifically around board members and whether elected officials may serve on the board. I believe we actually have the chair of the Central Market Trust, Mr. Martin, if you would like to say any words to the bill.
Councilor Arroyo, President Smith-Waddell, Mayor Sirachi. We've been engaged in multiple discussions over the last couple of years about lots of different subjects, but we are working diligently to implement our current strategic plan, and our hope is that that these amendments will align this the ordinances of this very significant partnership, which we value, and we appreciate all the support that Mayor Sirachi and Council have given us over this administration, just to make sure that everything's in alignment as we seek to move forward with some broadening of our public markets reach in our community, and to make sure that we have a board of sufficient size and stature in order to make those things happen. So we appreciate the board's and the council's support of these amendments to the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Council President, and this bill is for first reading.
Yep. Are there any council comments from the public? Okay. Hearing none, we will, and thank you, Councilor Arroyo. We will proceed to Administration Bill Number 17, 2022. Mr. Harris?
An ordinance of the City of Lancaster restating Chapter 260 of the Code of the City of Lancaster, Stormwater Management, and providing for the means and timing of its implementation, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and repeal of inconsistent ordinances. The first reading, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor Walsh?
This matter was brought before the committee last Tuesday, and Director Campbell and his team did a really nice job with a presentation outlining the upcoming proposed changes regarding stormwater. And I just wanted to make a note of its importance for various reasons, but particularly to protect health and safety of welfare as it relates to flooding and some of the climate change pieces that we have seen, and all of the benefits of making sure that the policies and procedures that we do have in place are consistent not only with state and regional laws, but that they are preparing Lancaster to be in the best position moving forward as we are facing climate crises. So I would invite Director Campbell to come up and speak to some of the changes that are proposed, just to do a general overview of the presentation.
So, thank you very, very much. I do in fact have a slightly abbreviated version of the presentation that was made last week, but I can also just do a summary of key points, and you can ask questions as you wish. I have the consultant, Andy Potts from Jacobs Consulting, with us as well, and our stormwater water engineer, Angela Brackbill, with us. So the key issues to be addressed with the stormwater legislation are to provide benefits to the city and develop the waterways. They are addressing three key areas. One is new references and requirements, which help clarify the applicability of requirements, better alignment of the ordinances with the green infrastructure manuals, and allowing for more progress towards the 2017 consent decree. Clarifications and streamlining of the ordinances and the way things are written for clearer requirements and approval pathway, making it easier to get through the process. Added flexibility to meet requirements on challenging sites. Some of the waivers that are requested are based on very specific technical issues, and it's intended to reduce the number of waiver requests. And last but certainly not least, to be able to address climate change related updates so that we are calibrating our goals and the performance requirements based on the requirements of Marissa, which is the I should have pulled it out. Tell me what Marissa is. No.
And yeah,
Mid-Atlantic Regional Integrated Science Assessment. It's a mouthful, but it's related specifically to how do you calibrate what depth of water and inch of water do you manage based on storm events over the course of time. And that can rise and or change. It's a standard that the city of that is less than the standard that the city of Pittsburgh has adopted. But for a city like ours, we believe that it's a very good and still aggressive stance to take in terms of calibration. We are still reaching out to the engineering community to get further input about confirmation of what the challenges are to be able to address and meet these concerns. And at this moment, I will say that we have a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday at 12:30. If there are engineers in the stormwater environment, please reach out to me at scampbell@cityoflancasterpa.com so that we can get you on that roster. But we do have a focus group of engineers who have been doing this work with us for the last year and a half or so. Our hope is to be able to come back to you for the second reading at the beginning of September. But I will say that if for any reason there are significant changes, we would make those changes before coming back, and we might reinitiate as first reading at the beginning of September with the second reading at the end of September. There is one provision related to some of the new requirements, which is related to at the federal level, allocation of provisions for for the management and disposition of pet waste that needs to be in law by the end of September. So we do in fact have a horizon that we're working towards, at least for that component of the stormwater management guidelines.
Thank you.
Council questions or comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, thank you, Mr. Campbell. All right, that brings us to the resolutions portion of our agenda, and we'll begin with Administration Resolution Number 62, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, amending its fee schedule.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Bakay.
Thank you very much. We have heard a lot in previous meetings about changes to the city fee schedule. The impetus of this was a fee study that was done to make sure that the fees we were charging for services were in line with the scope of work, the number of employee hours, and in some cases, fees were decreased. In some cases, fees were raised. In other cases, decisions were made by departments to not charge a fee where there could be one. So we looked at that several times over the last few months. This first round of fee changes modifies existing fees and doesn't introduce any new fees. And they are, sorry, and we have an exhibit that is the schedule of those fees.
Is there anybody, I guess Patrick's not here. Council comments? From the public? Mr. Costaveles.
Do you have availability for that schedule for citizens of the city?
Yes, it was part of the publicly available documents for both this meeting, previous meetings, and it is posted on the website as the Exhibit A.
I do not recall if it's uploaded.
I believe it is. I can double check.
Okay.
Actually, right now. Oh.
That was mine.
Okay. Well, if there's a desire to table,
Then I would make a motion to table
okay. Hold on just a second.
until our next regular meeting. It's on
September 13th.
September 13th. Thank you.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. It looks like the mayor has a comment.
Just to say that there are a couple of additional fees that we were taking another look at to finalize, and we'll have those finalized by September 13th for a vote by council.
Excellent. In the meantime, can we get the proposed schedule of changes on the website once we're done with it? That would be great. Fantastic. Okay.
Mr. President, who was the second on that?
I believe it was Councilor Diaz.
Thank you.
Council comments on the motion to table. Comments from the public on the motion to table. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
On the motion to table. Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Bakay.
Aye.
Mr. Calise.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. All right, that is tabled for September. We go then to Administration Resolution Number 63, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the execution of a cooperation agreement with the Lancaster Public Library in connection with the Lancaster Public Library construction project at 151 North Queen Street, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, 17602.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Arroyo, I'm going to pass this one to you again.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. This resolution is for the Lancaster Public Library to receive a $2.5 million state redevelopment assistance grant, which the library needs a cooperation agreement with the city in order to receive those funds. The resolution will authorize this agreement, but will not make the city liable for those funds. The grant is one of several helping to fund the library's move from the North Duke Street location to recently constructed space on Ewell Plaza. That is all, Council President.
Thank you. Happy to be doing it. Council comments from the public.
I used to represent the city on the library board. How many representatives do we have on the library board as of now?
I'm sorry, can you be slightly more specific?
Well, I represented the city on the board. How many representatives
Representatives of city government?
From the city.
Of city government? I don't believe.
No, not government. I mean, from the city. We don't have.
Oh, residents. There are
residents.
several.
I
of them.
think we should look.
Hold on a second.
We're always giving, and that's good. And I was on their board, so I know what's going on. We need to get more representation on there. Because we're always signing checks.
2, 3.
Who were on the council? There's someone in council? Are you?
There is not currently a council member. I stepped off the board. I'm looking at the list, which is available on the public library website, and just from whom I know personally, at least 8 of these people of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
16.
10, yep. So at least half of these folks are persons that are known to me personally to be city residents, especially because we are the primary service area for the Lancaster Public Library. Many folks believe the public library to be part of the county library system, but no such entity actually exists. It serves 3 branches in 3 municipalities based here. So at least half of this board, probably more, I just don't know these folks personally, are representatives from the city of Lancaster.
How many people from Puerto Rico or from Africa on there?
Well, how many people?
You left, so you don't count.
No, I'm also not from Africa. I was born in Virginia Avenue.
You were born here, but you know what I mean.
Mr. Acosta-Velez, would you like to return to the library board?
I would love it because, I mean, one of the things that bothered me, and I will say it to you and I say it publicly, I was on their board, and there was a program that was for kids to learn English, and that was sacked. And I would see little kids going to get books, and they would be so proud, and they sacked that program for whatever reason. And we're always signing checks for them.
Sure.
So I really would appreciate, I'll volunteer.
Okay.
They might not like me, but I'm there to represent the city and the little kids. It was really nice. They would sing Arroz con Leche, it's a song from Puerto Rico, and you would see these little kids, even Anglo kids, singing that, and it was so beautiful. And they, when I called them about it, oh, we don't have that anymore. Okay? So please, thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to Administration Resolution Number 64, 2022.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster extending the deadline of an automated red light enforcement grant of $458,080 from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to be used for intersection improvements along Christian Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Walsh.
Sure. So this is simply administrative in nature. The funds were awarded in, as Mr. Harris said, in October of 2019. And what this resolution would do would just be to simply extend the deadline for the completion of this work until November 15, 2023. It does not change the scope of work. It does not change the amount of funds awarded, but rather just extends the deadline for completion of this project.
Council comments? My bad. Council comments? From the public? Mr. Seust?
Yes. Just a comment. I assume this is the same program that has the crosswalks at all the intersections, such as on Walnut Street, with the flashing lights to alert motorists that people are trying to cross the street?
That's a great question. Director Campbell, would you be able to speak to that?
The simple answer is it's the same program, but it is dedicated in this case to the active transportation network, the bike lanes coming primarily from Chestnut to Orange. So it does include notifications, but it also includes site markings and things like that. That's how the scope had been determined at the origination of that scope, by the way.
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out, I find those crosswalks and those flashing lights really confusing, especially on Walnut Street, where you've got 2 lanes of traffic going in the same direction, and I walk across there all the time. And when you stop there, motorists are confused. Do we stop or do we go? And then they stop, but you can't cross because you know somebody else is coming up the other lane right away. They don't have that little man in the street, that says you have to yield to pedestrians. So I just wanted to point out, I find them really confusing and potentially dangerous for that reason. And I don't know if there's anything that can be done about it, but just thought I'd point that out.
Thank you, Mr. Seust.
Gary Ziffer. I'm 319 North Queen Street, but my office is on Christian Street, 320 North Christian Street, and I walk my dog 4 times a day. I'm back there. I know that this is specific to Orange and Chestnut perhaps, and so it is relevant. However, I'd like to just tell you that there are very few, if any, bikes. They go up and down Christian Street. And we love the stamped roadwork that was done. It's very pretty. And my only comment would be that if funds are going to be used and they're dedicated, then that's fine. However, there's been issues that have arisen over the last decade. I know that we've been there for 30 years, but that it's a 2-way street and it can't fit 2 cars. And it's always been an issue. There've been a couple of commercial tenants there who are no longer there, who always opposed the one-ways, but it's not probably the right format or time to discuss this. But if it's going to be a bike lane, and a lot of money has been spent, that stamping was expensive, I know. The crosswalks are frankly ridiculous because you have to get off your bike in order to push the button. So, and very few people who walk across use them either at Walnut, at Lemon, and wherever else they're going to be. So, there was a good intent, I think, behind it, but perhaps maybe some additional investigation could be done at looking at making Christian Street a one-way again. It's a mess at the hospital because it's one way and then not. So no big deal. I hadn't planned on even discussing this tonight, but it came up, so I'm here because it's one of my main pathways for walking every day of the year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ziffer.
Mr. Campbell wants to say something.
Sir?
Thank you very much for those comments. If you wish, the appropriate forum will be the Traffic Commission to be able to make those kinds of recommendations. We would have the ability to study the situation. With bicycles, bikes are often allowed as share roads, which means it's not requiring a separated lane, even though on Christian Street we do have the different pavement to indicate where bike and pedestrian ways are. But to be able to address most of your concern, being able to come to the Traffic Commission would be the right forum. Very good. We welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Thank you, Mr. Ziffer. Are there other public comments? Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. That brings us to Administration Resolution Number 65, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the submission of an application seeking funding from the U.S. Department of Justice for the FY 2022 Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Diaz.
This is basically, the city and the county believe that the best interest is for both parties to allocate 100% of 49,036 to the police bureau. And it would be basically purchasing, items, equipment, computer equipment like upgrades. And if there's anything additional that I guess Delph could, I'm not sure who can speak on the grants right now.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
This funding is annual entitlement funding that we receive every year based on the population size of the city. And as Councilor Diaz articulated, we use this funding to supplement the police budget related to mostly equipment-related costs. I think that in addition to those costs, there's also a couple of electric bikes that are being added to the fleet for the bicycle patrols.
Thank you, Mayor. And that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Thank you, Mayor. Comments from council? From the public? Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. That brings us to Administration Resolution Number 66. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster requesting a Safe Streets for All grant program not to exceed $10 million from the United States Department of Transportation to be used for the implementation of the City of Lancaster Vision Zero Action Plan.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Walsh.
Sure, so I think this is pretty appropriately timed. This is a grant application that would help the implementation of the mayor's Vision Zero Action Plan, which, as a reminder, the goals are to promote safety on streets and sidewalks. And this grant will help us to design and implement a plan for complete streets. Again, I think this is administrative in nature, but with all these plans, implementation dollars are needed. So I don't really have much more to say other than this grant would allow us to move forward with implementing the strategic plan in place to make our streets and sidewalks much safer.
Thank you. Director Campbell, do you have anything additional here?
Just as a quick clarification, this is a request to make the application for this grant, which would give us $10 million, $2 million per year over the course of the next 5 years. We have currently seeded in our budget that amount as a target for implementation of Vision Zero. So every dollar that we acquire through this grant reduces the city's obligation to make that same commitment to Vision Zero.
Great. Other council comments? From the public? Okay. Hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you all. We are continuing on a theme here. Administration Resolution Number 67. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster requesting a multimodal transportation fund grant of $1,121,850 from the Commonwealth Financing Authority to be used for the Greater Lancaster Heritage Pathway Eastbound Connector Phase 2.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Walsh.
Very much still on the theme of safe streets and sidewalks. This grant would allow for, specifically within the mayor's strategic plan with the focus area of the safe places, this particular piece would help to implement some of the priorities and actions of the eastbound connector. I do welcome Director Campbell to speak to this a bit further in helping us to understand how the grant application would offset some of the budgetary costs as well.
Very good, thank you. The key focus on this particular grant is to be able to make the connection between our eastbound and westbound connector and the county's active transportation plan, which goes to the Greater Heritage Gateway. So it is to make the connection, the connectivity. Right now, we, as many of you are aware, we have an internal active transportation plan and bike routes, and there's a county system, and there aren't as many connections as we would like. This is the opportunity to make the connection from at the westbound, the west end of both the eastbound and westbound connector on Walnut Street and Lemon Street to the county active transportation network. It also will do some modest enhancements west of Plum on the eastbound connector, stopping just short of Manheim Township and Lancaster Township.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council comments from the public. Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Calise.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. That brings us to Administration Resolution 69, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the adoption of an amendment to the Act 537 Official Sewage Facilities Plan for the City of Lancaster.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'm sorry, Councilor Arroyo, would you please?
Thank you, Council President. I'm actually, if it's okay, would like to welcome Chief Planner Douglas Smith to help me properly pronounce Photonis and also do a deeper dive into the resolution, if he doesn't mind.
These are the folks that make the night vision goggles, right?
Yes, that's right, Council President. Good evening, councilors, and good evening, Mayor. Last I was here, I provided you a brief overview. I will just recap that explanation briefly, and then I have some additional information to present on this as well. So the request here is from an existing business at Burrell Business Park to discharge blow-down fluid from their boiler system into the City of Lancaster's sewer system, MS4 sewer shed. And it was some years ago required to be disconnected, and they then began shipping that fluid off-site to be processed by a wastewater handler. Photonis is now looking to reconnect to the city's system, and they've submitted a sewer planning module to make that request for additional volume discharge into the city system. So the decision tonight is regarding that volume allocation in our system. The contents of that water will be dealt with through a discharge permit through our sewer engineering bureau as well. So at our meeting, there were some questions about why that disconnection was made in the first place when they were originally discharging into the city's system. So I'm going to provide you a summary of the answer that I got from Ritu's engineer. So Photonis was directed by Burrell Business Park to discontinue discharge of this wastewater because of a lapsed NPDES permit on that site. So that is the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, and they require stormwater permits be renewed on a regular basis. It appears that Brill's Business Park lapsed in this NPDES permit, and as a result, DEP implemented a permit restriction of the business park sanitary sewer, and they required that only sanitary sewer wastes be discharged into their pre-treatment facility on the site. So this blowdown fluid was not considered sanitary sewer, so this business was required to no longer discharge that into the Brill treatment pre-treatment system. So at the direction of PADP, they began to accumulate the wastewaters on an on-site frac tank, about 6,000 gallons in size, and then began shipping those wastewaters off to a waste broker. So they're looking to now undo that, now that Brill Business Park has a current NPDES permit. They would like to reconnect to the city system, but they will have to do that through their own sanitary sewer lateral and not into the Brill Business pre-treatment facility. So it's my understanding that restriction still stands, that stormwater is not supposed to be discharged into that pre-treatment facility. So there is additional permitting that's needed beyond the request that's before you tonight. Tonight is that volume request. And our sewer engineer, Brian Harner, has reviewed this and determined that we do have capacity in our system to receive the additional volume, which I believe at our last council meeting, I estimated to be somewhere in the ballpark of 20 to 25 residential units of volume per day.
Wow, okay. Thank you. From the public. Oh, I'm so sorry. Give me just 1 second. I screwed that up. From council. Okay, Ivan.
My name is Ivan Acosta-Velez, 800 block of Highland Avenue. My question, how's that going to affect the Conestoga? We need to know. No, I think, and maybe, who knows? We need to know. Kids play there. They go fishing there. Okay, I tell them not to eat the fish, but we need to really know about it. Not that we're going to go. How is that going to affect the Conestoga?
I'll do my best to answer that. There may be others in the room with more expertise on this particular topic. So the Brill Business Park, it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm off base on this, but they are a part of our MS4 sewer shed. And so that means that they are in a disconnected area of our sewer system, which means they discharge directly to the Conestoga River through, piped conveyance. So we are required as a municipality to ensure that the MS4 system meets certain water quality standards over time. And that is part of our reporting as a city. In this case, we're allocating volume, but we have not looked into the contents of the water. It's possible that this water, because it's just condensation from a boiler system, may have nothing harmful in it and would not affect the Conestoga or its health. But certainly, there is an application process for that discharge to be approved, and I'm confident that our Sewer Bureau will be analyzing that. I've looked at the application, I've alerted our wastewater treatment plant about this request, and I've had conversations with Christine Hilditch and her sewer engineer, in addition to Brian Harner. And at the moment, there are no major concerns about this, at least in terms of the volume allocation. So if there are contamination issues with the water, that is a whole nother story. And then we would, be using all of our applicable laws in terms of permitting the discharge or not.
But let me ask the question, because you're saying that, but after it's contaminated, I don't want to hear about that. What are we doing when you present it to the council and to the citizens of the city before it gets there? After it, you can fine them, yeah, but it's damaged.
Ivan, here, let me jump in here, and then I'll let Director Campbell speak. So, and somebody who knows more about this than I do, correct me if I say something absolutely loony. What is before us is the authorization of an evaluation of whether the capacity exists in the system as it stands now. That water is piped unmanaged by wastewater treatment, or would be piped unmanaged by wastewater treatment directly into the Conestoga, and it is on the city's sewer and wastewater staff to test that water quality and to determine whether it is indeed moving contaminants, or it would move contaminants into the Conestoga or not. But that is a separate permitting or approval process from the one before us here tonight. Is that correct?
And
Correct.
Council President?
Yep.
Just because I'm looking at my notes from the previous meeting, what we clarified in the previous meeting was that this is step one of a multi-step process that includes all of those determinations, and this isn't the final answer. It's just the beginning of the exploration of what is in that water, essentially, if my notes are correct.
That is correct, Councilor Bakay. Tonight is volume. The administrative decision before the Sewer Bureau would be the contents of the water and whether they're safe to be discharged. And that is a determination that our engineers, and probably with consultation, will be evaluating. And then in addition to that, there's the feasibility of the actual connection, the engineering connection to the public sewer system, which I'm certain we'll be reviewing in great detail as well to make sure that it's constructed to the best, to the best way possible. That includes stormwater management for any disturbed surfaces or reconstructed impervious as well. So there are still a number of steps to get to the finish line, and more scrutiny will be applied.
Mr. Smith, let me ask this question, and I know this is random and you might not know the answer. When was the last time the sewer department denied, looked at something and said no, this water is not good to flow directly into the Conestoga, no thank you? It's just, does that happen? Is it the case that folks usually don't even bring us that kind of stuff? I know that's a bit of a curiosity, but.
Sure, I'll say that I have not encountered a situation like that. I don't deal with too many industrial projects, and so I've not encountered one that has been denied. In fact, this is the first time I've ever been involved or had knowledge of a sewer discharge permit where the contents of the water would have been evaluated. Since this is a little bit different from, say, a standard sanitary sewer permit that we would provide, certainly we would be looking at this more closely.
Thank you.
So I don't want to get too much into some of the weeds of some of this, but part of the testing processes is to prevent those instances, or to monitor often enough so that it is preventing the water from bad water from getting into the system or into the Conestoga. The fact that this water would be going into the sewer system means that it would be treated, even in the worst case scenario, it would be treated. And we always put better water into the Conestoga than we take out. So the quality of the water that we're treating from the wastewater treatment plant is significantly better than the water that we take out, although we treat and address the quality of the water for drinking purposes from the Conestoga and from the Susquehanna water treatment plant. The fact that there had been in the past these efforts to separate that system from our system indicates that even then we were monitoring it well enough to stop a bad situation and to require the business to take actions to solve or address the problem differently until the situation could change. They're now going through this process of reapplication, and it has to go through this series of hurdles in order to satisfy us and DEP that they will be meeting and or exceeding the regulations.
Okay, I want to stay right there because I want to be accountable to what I said. In that case, was I then incorrect when I said that this water would flow to the Conestoga unfiltered?
So with an MS4, the storm water will go to the Conestoga, but it's separated.
Right.
So the sewer water the reason we needed the capacity confirmation from Brian Harner is to confirm that we have the capacity to take the sewer water, which is the not domestic sewer, but it's the sewer water that's coming out of the building, the use of the building.
Okay. Thank you. I think we're all on the same page, but please.
I just wanted to acknowledge that I may have muddled things a little bit because I think that there's some history too that we haven't yet fully reconstructed. Generally, NPDES permits are provided for stormwater systems, and so it's possible in the past this condensate blowdown was possibly put into a stormwater system, but was then removed, and now they're looking for a sanitary connection. So tonight is the volume capacity for a sanitary connection, which means it goes to our wastewater treatment plant for treatment, and then ultimately to the Conestoga for discharge.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. That concludes our legislative agenda. It brings us to our second public comment period. Open for comment about issues not on the agenda. The rules remain, of course, the same. Pardon me. Please begin with your name and your block of residence. Keep your comments 2-3 minutes in length. Please come to the microphone. I see you, Mr. Ziffer. Go right ahead.
Mr. President.
Yep.
If I may.
Of course.
Just for the sake of the record, I'll be renumbering Resolution 69 as Resolution 62, since that one was tabled, in order to keep the numerical sequence.
Okay, thank you. Do we need to take any action?
We do not.
All right, thank you.
I'm still Gary Ziffer at Main Street. We're a reality TV world, the video.
You got to do that. I mean, I can see this, but you got to do it at the microphone.
Yeah, I'm going to go back.
Okay, just for the recording.
This is a video of July 17th. So you can watch. This is the shooting from Laurent LaRue. This is taken in front of our property. This is with my cameras. This is what we see from our bedroom. This is what we hear. You can't hear it because I don't take audio because I was told not to. This is approximately, you're going to see the shooting. Okay, you're going to see the gentleman in a light green shirt who shot the other two gentlemen, who was presumably, we believe, working security that night, who walked out of the 317 North Queen Street, went to his car, got his gun, and then shot them.
Mr. Ziffer, I'm so sorry. Come up here and put this on pause for me for just a second. Just hit the pause button for me for just a second. Since you are, just pause it. You're good. I just want to clarify a question.
There's nothing, I've spoken with Detective Bones today.
Okay.
There's not a problem.
Good. No, my question was just, I wanted to ask if there is indeed, and you are showing this to council, and there is indeed an action of gunfire on the video. I wanted to let council members know before they watch that, in case that.
Yes, it's our reality, so I want
Yep.
you all to see our reality.
Okay.
We've been dealing with-
Just so we're all clear on what's happening. Okay, thank you. Please proceed, Mr. Ziffer.
So, yes, he was just shot. I mean, he fell down. Okay. This is 2.5 minutes later when the police arrived with 7 vehicles to deal with the matter, and they closed our block for another 2.5 hours. This club opened on October 10th, and you've heard me before. On November 10th, 40 days later, they were issued a permit, certificate of zoning compliance for a culture, entertainment, and recreation facility. Just so we have that on the record. The 300 block of North Queen Street is the home of 200 or so residents and business owners. There are most likely more people living on the 300 block, including many business owners who live in their properties, than any other block in the city. There are residents and business owners who are Black, Caucasian, Latino, Asian, and Native American. We have a wonderful mix of heterosexual and every part of the LGBTQ community on our block, representing business owners and residents. We represent the best of the city, both short-term and long-term residents and owners, my wife and I being 34 years. We work hard and care about our block. We deserve to be defended like any other resident or part of the city. More than 75 of us signed a petition requesting you to address the issue before the next person is shot on our block, property is damaged, or something else happens because of an apparent lack of interest. But you have chosen to defend and support a single group not included in my list. You have chosen to defend the single, lawless, and indefensible establishment without explanation or cause, other than some self-serving motivations you may have that none of us understand. The Legacy Lounge opened in October without a permit, health or other inspection, liquor license. It opened on October 1st, 2021, without anyone knowing what was coming. We knew the night before. I spoke with the city department head the following Monday and was told the city would shut them down immediately. She was unequivocal about this. I'm not going to mention a name, because of their activities inside and lack of permitting or approvals. Some of us have been accused of baseless racial motivation for not wanting an illegal, unpermitted, violent, and extraordinarily noisy speakeasy open from 1 to 5 a.m. Is this the type of minority-owned business you choose to support as a linchpin for community diversity and development? I hope not. You have chosen to support a former felon convicted of a manufacture and sale of controlled substance who, according to the LMP, was shot in his club on December 5th, 2021. I can attest to that, as he came out bloody. You have chosen to support owners who pled guilty to 22 or more noise ordinance violations several months ago, owners who opened an establishment with partial nudity, alcohol without a license, deafening noise, and so much else that is unequivocally antithetical to the growth and prosperity of the city of Lancaster. The city that we and others for more than 3 decades have invested our lives, most of our resources, and have personally paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in city and school taxes and local income tax. The establishment that exists without any regulation, which does nothing other than to exacerbate alcoholism, drug abuse, and violence. You've engaged, in our estimation, in endless obfuscation, but we at least now know where we stand and where you have for the entire 10 months since this speakeasy opened.
Mr. Ziffer,
Yeah.
30 seconds, wind it down.
30 seconds more?
Yep, thank you.
That's fine. The representative of the city wasn't able to tell us much, but enough to indicate that there just didn't seem to be any interest in dealing with this. This ordeal may end in October unless the lies about terminating leases continue from the city and landlord. This ordeal for us may end sooner if the owners implode on their own. But just remember, due to your lack of concern and interest, the next club could open next door to you. I can guarantee you, we will provide the same support and empathy that we think we have been provided. I have no doubt that there'll be no response to this evening. It's sad to me. I'm sad to live in this city now because of this, after 34 years, after a lot that has been done. And I'm sorry. I didn't come here to shame you, but shame on all of you.
Don't forget your laptop, Mr. Ziffer.
Well, since you gave him 4 minutes, I have 4 minutes on mine. So let's do it honestly around. I'm going to start. My name is Ivan Acosta Velez. I've lived in the city 50 years, 50 años. Okay? I went into the lead program thinking it was hoo-hoo. It's not hoo-hoo. I've been talking to administration. I've been talking to you guys. I'm not shaming you. Okay? I just want this resolved. My house is a mess. And in this contract, it states, owner by here engages the contractor and the letter agreed to perform a neat, good workmanship. Nada. The floor is broken. It's not, it's supposed to clack like that. It's not. I've been calling. They say I'm making it up. You've seen it. Miss Janice has seen it. And if any of you, you're welcome, 804 Highland Avenue to come and see it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to shame you, but I'm going to tell you this. You're going to hear me. You know why? It was over $27,000. Okay? And there was a minority that bid it on it, and because he was a little bit over, they told me I can pay the difference. Then when I went for the agreement, they said no. Okay, so we need to, I got 2 minutes and 41. We need to make up our mind. Don't sit here and say, because I'll be back. I'm not going anywhere. Okay, if I die, I'll ghost you. But I'm telling you right now, please, I need this resolved. Or you're going to continue to see me, okay? And the next thing I'm going to do if you don't do it, I'm going to picket your homes. And that's not a threat, it's a promise. I need this resolved, okay? You want me to talk about the lead program? It's a good program, yes, okay? It's not a personal thing. It was the guy that made a comment about Hispanics in my own house that I pay my taxes and I pay my mortgage. Okay, and I shut up to get it resolved. Okay, and I regret it. Okay, just because there's money there, and we have to get someone from Scranton, Pennsylvania, when there's a minority that bid it, that lives in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm not done. I want this resolved. And I think I've called a lot of people. I've given letters to a lot of people. This is the last time. Next time, we're going to picket your home. And I'm not kidding, okay? And we're not going to scream or anything, but we're going to have signs and we're going to call Channel 8. And I'm not playing. I'm tired of coming here. I'm a sick, old man. I'm 62, and I lived here 50. So imagine that, okay? Please, get this done. It's not against the director. It's not against the mayor. It's not. Get this done. There's money involved, okay? And I mean it. If someone would have treated you like that in your home, I know you wouldn't. I left them there. I was trying to bring the peace, okay? We can bring the International Day of Peace, but come on. You know what I'm saying? $27,000. And you saw what they did in my house. You saw what they did in my house too. And I appreciate, Mayor, I got my money. I left. Thank you. Okay? So please, do something about it, because I'm going to keep on coming. All right? And it's not a threat. I'm not going to hurt you, but you're going to hear me. Freedom of speech. Okay? And I'll remember what Dr. King said. Our blueprint shows for itself. You can sit here and say, oh, Ivan's back here. Yeah, Ivan's going to be back until you resolve it. Okay? And I'm not asking for gold. I'm just asking fix what we're supposed to. My time's up. See? I got 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Acosta-Velez. I appreciate it. Are there any other public comments? Okay. Hearing none, we go then to the report of the mayor, Mayor Sirachi.
Thank you. I'd like to share an update from Treasury to begin. I'm pleased to report that the City of Lancaster water customers are taking advantage of the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program that was made possible by the American Rescue Plan. As of 8/5/22, 312 customers have received assistance totaling $266,984 from the Water Assistance Program, in addition to the ERAP program, which has assisted 133 customers totaling $40,800. So while I am very pleased that residents are utilizing these needed relief dollars, and we have recovered $450,000 in total since May, I also want to note that this is only 17% of the total owed amount. So there's still more work that remains, and more on the Water Assistance Program can be found at dhs.pa.gov/waterhelp. And so I just want to acknowledge that, yes, progress has been made, but there is still outstanding delinquent accounts totaling $2.26 million. And I encourage everyone who has delinquent water accounts to please take advantage of this opportunity. We are fortunate that there has not been a lot of water shutoffs to date. There have been 17 thus far inside the city as of 8/3/2022. And of course, there is a period of time in which water shutoffs are precluded by law, which we appreciate. But please don't wait longer to bring your account up to date and take advantage of these opportunities and clear that $2.2 million that is owed to the City Water Fund. I also want to give a shout out to the hard work of our Treasury team, who really are doing their best to help customers connect with assistance or get on a payment plan. And then the second thing I wanted to just brief council on is an overview of our city's equity inclusion work as it relates to our vision to build a stronger, more equitable Lancaster block by block. So, you know, we have 4 strategic priorities, and within strong neighborhoods, I just wanted to highlight that we have continued to work to expand access through our language access program and our online Engaged Lancaster platform, continue to provide training and peer support to residents through our Neighborhood Leaders Academy, and support leaders to catalyze their ideas through the Love Your Block grant program, which to date has supported 94 community building projects and totaling $90,000 of investment. Our comprehensive plan has certainly been a keystone effort within strong neighborhoods, and it has been heavily resident-led. reflecting some of our deepest neighborhood engagement work accomplished to date. Over 2,100 residents have been engaged thus far, and I'm really looking forward to sharing with you some of the materials that are coming from the comprehensive plan as we move into the fall. We've also added, as you know, a housing social worker joining our police social workers to help residents in need secure housing. And of course, you all are aware of the $5 million that the city and council has committed to affordable housing. And as Mr. Acosta Velez has reminded us of our $11 million effort to make more than 700 homes south of King Street lead safe. We are leading the nation in the pace of this work, and we've codified this work in policy shifts that will require all rental properties to comply with lead safe standards. This is perhaps the most permanent and lasting impact that we will have to prevent the lifelong impact of lead poisoning on our children. And with these historic investments in housing safety and quality, we have mapped all housing-related investments since 2018 on LancasterBlockByBlock.com, which shows the majority of our public investments are in the south of King Street, which are the start of shifting a decades-long private and public underinvestment into these neighborhoods. Moving on to safe places, building trust and legitimacy between government and community, we have moved important work forward in our police bureau, prioritizing community engagement, increasing communications with residents, aligning policy with best practices, while also maintaining critical police services. And we have and continue to partner with Penn Medicine Lancaster General Health to begin training all employees in the trauma-informed practices, especially those interface with residents daily. And that training is currently taking place within the Police Bureau, co-facilitated by Leilani, our police social worker, and Lieutenant Stoltzfus. Under sustainable economies, we've issued a request for proposals to expand our broadband service citywide with a focus on closing the digital divide. We will hear more about that later this fall, and we have connected local contractors with the pipeline of work in lead mitigation, not Scranton, creating new business opportunities. And in a few weeks, you will hear more about a partnership with the School District of Lancaster to assess childcare access for school-age children. And lastly, in sound government, continuing to work on a culture of inclusion in public service. We'll soon be sharing our second annual HR report to council. That will be coming later in September to show our progress toward building a workforce that reflects our city. We've launched the Red Rose Academy to onboard all new hires, providing them with a foundation in our core values and strategic priorities. And we've launched management training for our bureau chiefs, directors, and managers. We've completed a compensation analysis to ensure equitable pay practices. And on LancasterBlockByBlock.com, we've created our first dashboard of data to increase transparency in key areas of hiring and investments. So 2 years ago, we talked about our commitments to equity. 4 years ago, 5 years ago even, I've been talking a lot about our vision to the city and its residents. Our responsibility as public servants is to continue to show action, and we can only continue to do that through intentional shifts in policy and practice. I am proud of this progress, and I also know, as Mr. Seuss and Mr. Ziffer will point out, that there is much more work to be doing. You will be hearing changes to noise ordinance that will be coming this fall, as well as other changes that relate to quality of life in the city of Lancaster. City is committed to continuous improvement, and I know that council shares in this sentiment, and I want to thank you for your partnership in this work. And that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mayor Sirachi. Comments from members of council? Okay. I have no report, so I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay.